Hi, my name's Jack Roster. I'm a weapon artist in the games industry. I've got over 10 years experience, and today we're going to be going through a sort of student's art test. He submitted this to a company for a prop role. He unfortunately didn't get the job, but we're going to go through his submission. I've got the model and the files and everything. I've also got the brief, so we're going to go through all of that. We're going to look at the Highpoly, the Lowpoly, the UVs, and the texturing. I'm going to go through and have a look maybe why he didn't get the job, what he could have done to improve his chances, and hopefully this is useful for some of you guys out there looking to get your first game in the jobs industry. First job in the games industry. We're sticking with that one. I'm going to say it now before the video starts, but if you do find this video useful, please subscribe, and if you are wanting feedback on your own work, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to feedback some of you guys' work. I've mentored a lot of people over the last few years, and yeah, I'm here to help people out, so yeah, subscribe, buckle in. It's a long video, but some of the information is really useful, so best of luck. Hello everyone, this is going to be a quick video to go over somebody's art test. So this wasn't submitted to me, but it was submitted to another company. I don't know who, but essentially this is what they produced for the art test. So here are some of the angles. Unfortunately, they didn't get the job, and we're going to go through some of the reasons why they may not have gotten that job. So this is the brief, and essentially they asked for the artist to recreate this image, and they wanted him to go through the Highpoly, Lowpoly, UVs, bake, and texturing. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to sort of analyze how it looked, you know, on each stage, how they kind of handled each stage. So the targets were to match the reference, so it needs to be photorealistic, as close to the reference as you can. All elements should be present. Make sure every single piece from the reference is in your model, which is quite difficult because it's not particularly high resolution. And then clean and optimized. Your mesh and files must be clean, optimized, and tidy. This one kind of conflicts with the previous one because they want everything included, which is going to get in the way of some optimization. But logical naming, yeah, makes sense. Presentation, awesome renders. They would like them to use metallic and roughness workflow. They want to keep it between 8K and 10K, but use your best judgment, and the resolution should be 2K. So I've got the file open in Painter here. We're going to take a quick little look. They're actually rendering at 1K here, so we're going to switch that to 2K because that's what they were allowed to use. And this is how it looks. I'm going to check which environment they're using. Yeah, Tomoka's perfect. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely some issues here. For example, this like black metal, black, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's rubber, maybe it's metal, maybe it's plastic. I don't, you know, I'm not totally sure. It looks a bit iffy. All I really know is that the copper is definitely copper. This is like a plastic or something. And yeah, so we're going to go through this basically. They used, I believe it was 9,000 triangles. What did I just do? Statistics. So they used 9,095 triangles, and you know that was the result they got. So we're going to go through and look at this. So we're going to start off with the Highpoly. So that's where it all starts. So we're going to look at the Highpoly before everything else. I'm going to turn off this horrendous color because it's really difficult to see what's going on with that much saturation. I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm going to make it non-metallic. So I'm just working with the base. And let's see what we got here. So I think the Highpoly is actually looking quite clean. I need to adjust the clipping to get rid of some artifacting issue. There you go. So one thing I noticed was there's a bit of a shading issue on the round area here. There's like a bit of a dimple kind of at the end. Honestly, fine. It doesn't matter really. This is worse on the back. You've got this sort of pinching thing here, which I don't love. Maybe it doesn't pick up well on the video, I'm not sure, but there's two sort of protrusions where it's not totally smooth. I don't know why this material's taken so long to load. This isn't my project, of course, so I'm learning it kind of as we go along as well. Okay, it loaded. Wow, laggy. I don't know what that is about. I don't usually use. I've not used this Blender in a while on my PC because I'm used to working on my work PC, but that might be why. So I'm not going to blame the artist too much. But yeah, there's some weirdness there. We can check it in the matte caps as well. If I remember how to do that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not that big a deal. It's definitely there. There you go. You can kind of see it in there. But it's not that big a deal. You don't really see it that much. I would look past that for sure. What else we got? Piping looks good. I would say like all of these like sort of thumb screws or like nuts or whatever you want to call them, they're all very perfectly angular. That's fine for when you're baking. It does make things a bit easier. This is incredibly thin. Seems too thin. If I check the reference again, let's have a look. I mean, yeah, you can't really tell. It is kind of hard to tell on the reference because I don't have the highest quality image. But yeah, generally you don't want to be baking things this thin just because it's quite difficult. You need to kind of think about it in the context of a game. This part looks nice. This part looks good. Probably continue that wire up a bit just because it looks a bit weird right now. But yeah, honestly, I think the Highpoly is pretty good. So I don't want to waste too much time looking at this because I think it's fine, honestly. You could get into the nitty gritty of like whether they should have dented up some edges. I did a little bit of a sculpt pass, whether the bevels are like soft enough. But honestly, I think it's mostly fine. There might be some weird shading going on with this thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly fine. I think you could like do a quick pass on this, like if you put a remesh on, and then I'm just gonna undo that, and then I'm gonna split by loose parts, and I'm just gonna do it on one of them. So if I do a remesh, and then I'm gonna make sure the scale's applied as well, and then I'm gonna go, let's see, 1. Let's go with 0.1. Might have gone too high resolution. I always do that. I go far too high. But this is like a nice little life hack I like. And then if you do a smooth corrective, I might reduce the resolution so that it's less laggy actually. I'll just double it to 0.2. So that's going to, give us a lot less resolution, which will be good. And then I'm going to put this on 1. And then we're going to repeat this like 50 times. And then let's have a look what we got. You have to do length. And then you do only smooth. And why does that look so bad? Oh, I know why. Because I need to go up far higher. Again, I've gone too high resolution, I think, even with it at 0.2. But it'll load in a minute. I don't think it'll be too absurd. There you go. So see how throwing that on has kind of softened some of the edges. I'm going to really bring this down to like 0.5. Okay, there you go. So that's really softened that. And if we look at the before, so this is the before. I think that there's just too much weirdness. Like there's kind of this curve, and then there's like this kind of sharp area, which like, considering the scale we're baking at, I just think that detail probably shouldn't be there. There's a bit like it's just overly sharp and weird, and there's like this like funky kind of shading. So if we kind of do a remesh, then a smooth. Essentially what you're doing is you're remeshing it, and then you're like, you're kind of like melting it. You're melting the whole device. Yeah, I think it just kind of works a little bit better. But yeah, this is like a quick, you know, life hacky kind of thing. But I think generally, as I said, I don't want to stay on this too long. I think the Highpoly is pretty good. So we're going to move on. Again, we got to get rid of this horrendous material because it's impossible to see anything. So this is what we've got. We've also got an issue with cavity on. There you go. So that got rid of some of that weird highlighting. So see how it's kind of like accentuating the geometry? I generally prefer to keep that off. If you do keep it on, then I usually just do the valley. But I'm just going to keep this off because it's easier to see the geometry. So this is 9,000 triangles, so pretty close to the limit, but we're not quite there. So because we're not quite there, I would add more geometry. I think this is ridiculously low resolution, and like it may seem okay when you're working in sort of this unshaded mode, but as you see when you look in game, like kind of once it's textured, you're getting this like line. So you can literally count the polygons. Like when you can see this line goes to here, then it goes to here, then it goes to here, then it goes to here, and like we can kind of follow that like along. Like you can just see the geometry. So yeah, we're gonna, you know, it kind of breaks the illusion when you see this kind of thing. So, you know, I would suggest, like firstly, we're going to turn the wireframe on for everything so we can actually reveal what's going on here. So there's two parts to this. We can optimize because there's a lot of wasted geometry, and then there's also areas that are not using enough geometry. So this is an example of something that's not using enough geometry. So we could, we could throw in a sort of edge loop here somewhere. Is that gonna work? Can I just do this? There you go, do that. So this should really have like a couple extra loops in it, just to give it like more rounding. I would probably go a bit more. Generally, what you want to do is have more geometry where there's outer silhouette, like where you're getting kind of, for example, here, we wouldn't need loops in here because it doesn't affect the silhouette. They're not doing anything. Whereas we do want them on this edge, which is good. So an example of that actually on the mesh, these back plates are a good example. So if we look at the silhouette, it's essentially a box with some chamfers, and then this area is sharp and it's got a hole in it. Like, it doesn't need to be 4 distinct pieces with geometry sort of in between. We've also got edges in here because I don't know why. It's just they're there for no real reason. If I remove these edges, like, it doesn't actually break anything, So we can get rid of all of these, and yeah, that looks a lot better to me. And then also you've got issues like this edge doesn't like do anything. This one doesn't do anything. And then also the fact like this shouldn't even be here. Like this should just come down, So if we undo, I'm just gonna So yeah, essentially, like if we hide this piece for now, these should get joined together, and then we should kind of delete the face inside, and then we can merge these verts together. I'm used to using hotkeys that I don't have right now by distance, and then we can remove that loop. This achieves the same result as what you previously had. And like the issue with what you previously had was that it was actually being represented in the UVs. So like, you know, what I just did here, like, let me just bring that back. Like we can also follow that logic down, bring it snap to closest fit, and you know, now we don't need this shape, right? And actually we didn't add any geometry pulling that down, so we don't need this shape. And then also it's up against a wall, so we don't need, you know, the back piece here either. But we can keep it whatever, it's two triangles, doesn't really matter. And then yeah, you would just sort of divide this bit and then bevel that out, and then, you know, we can delete that, join these together, and then, you know, make sure that we kind of deleted it and merged it all together. You know what I'm doing. So I'm not going to go through it all because I want to kind of preserve things, and you know, because if I show you this piece here and I look at the UVs, just to jump ahead a little bit, like way too many islands like for this one piece. Like why, you know, there's a lot going on here basically. And then also I believe that this, yeah, is this piece. So if we, yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, you can clearly see that this is not being unwrapped flat. Like it's not being unwrapped correctly. So we'll get to that later, but I want to look at the geometry a bit more because I do think that that's a big, massive issue, I guess. We've got this piece here, so we got like quite a lot going on here. Kind of gives it some 3D depth, but it adds, I don't know, like this isn't the worst. This isn't the worst. I just don't like that many verts converging to that closer point, I guess. There was definitely a piece up here that I saw. So we don't need this hole in the middle. It kind of helps with like saving a little bit of UV space, but considering your UVs are not efficient right now at all, I would suggest just collapsing that down to a single point. And then also same with the top, we've got loads of faces up here, which we're never going to see because the nuts are always like intersecting or like right up against it. So, you know, that's, you know, that right there is, you know, what is that, 14 faces, 30, you know, 28 triangles. You know, if you remove those from each one of these nuts, you know, it ends up being quite a lot of geometry that's just being wasted, you know, and just from that geometry alone, you'd get a lot better curvature on this, you know, glass. Let's see what's under the glass. I think this is fine. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's fine. Just leave it. Let's see what else we've got. This surprised me. So it's a tricky one because you're trying to make something so thin. I think generally it probably just shouldn't be this thin. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because like if it all depends like whether the shading that you're using is going to be two-sided or not. But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. Really, I think it should be thicker. It's not evenly thick either, which is really easy to solve. You can just I'm just gonna select all this, and then we can just throw a solidify, and then this is, I think, what you did probably, but if you do even thickness, it just makes it even. I mean, even that's a little bit better already. Although, why is it moved? Was that me? Did I accidentally move it? Yeah, there you go. Let's look at these little things. So these are using almost 10% of your, they're basically using 10% of your budget right now. So that's quite a lot. So really what you want to do when something's getting used quite a few times, you want to really make sure that each one is optimized. So I would probably suggest just maybe collapsing them down here like that. That saves quite a lot already. And then what we can do is we can do split by loose parts, and then we'll set the to geometry, and then we will, oh, what the heck? I don't know what that little bit is. Yeah, for some reason, each one of these has two. I don't know why. I'm gonna get rid of those. Okay, and then we're gonna just match them all to this one. So if I do link object data, now they all link. So now, let's see, I'm just going to join those together. So now it's 768. So that saved, you know, a fair bit, like 100 triangles. I mean, it's not loads, but there are, let's see. It's just, you know, having geometry that you don't necessarily need. Oh, wow, there's also all this. Okay. This will save a lot more. So yeah, there's like an extra like poly loop around the back, which we just don't need. It doesn't do anything. We can't, you know, we can't see it like I just deleted it and it looks the same, you know, because they're going to be right up against stuff. So now I can link object data and then join them all together, and now we're at 500. So now we've saved about 360 triangles. So I would suggest doing that. And yeah, you just generally want to think about these things, I guess, as you're going through. You know, what is this edge loop doing? Like, okay, it adds like a tiny bit to the profile, but like, does it actually look different? Like, I don't think it does. So let's just, you know, if I go on this mode and we look at it, like I delete them, it looks the same. Like, it looks pretty much the same from every angle. So yeah, it's just thinking about these things, like, you know, do we need like this many edges in here, like along here? I really don't think we do. So yeah, I would just go through, optimize them, delete the faces that are back facing. So like the wasted topology that we just had at the front, like, is also being mirrored at the back. So it's even more wasted stuff, and then it's actually coming over here, and then also the whole thing is like not mirrored, so that kind of makes things awkward. You know, it's very easy to just use the, like, you know, just to mirror this, just put a mirror modifier on. Let's see, and then you do bisect, and then that's what it'll look like, and then you can apply it, and then you can select these loops, and then you can do a, oh, and then your Blender can crash. There you go. Blender's autosave is amazing. So I'm just going to apply that. Oh, I didn't put it on bisect. I'm just going to apply, and then I'm just going to manually move it over. There's like better ways to do that. I think I use something in here. I'm used to, like, I've got my setup like locked in with my work PC, and I've not used this one in quite a long time, and I don't have it fully synced over. But there's a way to like space them out basically, so it's nice and even. But for now, I can just do this. Yeah, there you go. If you press Shift R, you can repeat an action. So like, I just moved that over, and then if I do the same, I press Shift R, it'll do the same. So yeah, that's fine. You know, it's just you know, these sort of efficiencies, like, it will make a difference after a while. And I also mirrored it the wrong way, but whatever. That's fine. Yeah, so you just flip it like that, and now it's better. Usually I can press like Shift X and move it over, which is part of hard ups, I think, but for now I'm just gonna eyeball them over, And then like maybe this edge could actually do with like an extra one. I don't know, maybe that's worth it. I don't know, but you know, it's a better use of geometry than what you had. And then I don't like how it's not even. Okay, I'm spending too long on this, but you get the principle. I think that I mean, there's some stuff, like weird stuff down here. Again, you've got like a hole in here with like a bunch of geometry that doesn't do anything. Like we literally can't see it. It's inside another piece of geometry. So, you know, this should just be delete those faces and then, you know, collapse that, and then you can remove that. Oh, what did I just do? There you go. Do that. So that looks good to me. You know, this is, again, it's uneven around here. Let's do, oh wow, I don't even have loop tools. Wait, do I have loop tools? I thought loop tools was default. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe it's I don't know. I don't know new Blender. I'm still using like old 4 point something. I had to install 5.0 just to open this map. Actually, wait, I'm on 4.2. Ignore me. So, yes. Don't have geometry in areas that cannot be seen. I'm already guessing there's a bunch of geo in here. I'm just, you know, just looking at it, I'm guessing. So, for example, it goes inside this other piece here, but, you know, there's some geometry in here that can't be seen. You know, they got 2 loops there, which is 16 faces, which would be 32 triangles. So that's 32 triangles that are being wasted. And also, just for the sake of like keeping things clean, I would actually suggest, oh my god, what is this? So we've also got geometry on the inside here, like, which, you know, what, like, why? We can't see it. So really, if you're going to do it, it should be like, you know, like this. And then this top piece should also be like this. And then we've got this inside, which we don't need. And there you go. That's better. So you can either do it like this, where the piece just clips through, and then you want to kind of slide that down until it's inside, but barely. And then same up here. Just move that down a little bit. Now it's inside. That looks good. And then this top part is open for some reason. I don't know, like it probably shouldn't be. And then this piece can be slid up. That's fine. And now we can actually slide this over a little bit. And that looks good. And then this should be like capped or something, because it's just kind of weird that it, like, I don't know, like it just you know, like it leaves an open hole, and presumably if the player was stood underneath this, like they could just look and they'd see like a hole. I don't know how big this thing is, but whatever. You know, same here. We've got another issue where this, you know, like if I 96 triangles, if I select this, collapse it, now we're at 84 triangles. So that saved us like whatever that was, saved us a certain amount of triangles. And then you can actually remove this point and you'll get a couple back as well. Same with this side. So now we're at 68 triangles. You know, there's just ways that we can optimize. If this part is always going to be facing behind, you know, we can remove these pieces. It probably won't affect the bake that much. And yeah, these things like add up. And then what you can do is you can now that you've got like extra bandwidth on your geometry, you know, we can add like an extra loop maybe in here, because like we want this like nice curved kind of feeling. Like, I don't know, like maybe that helps us somehow, like maybe it doesn't, you know. It's kind of up to us though, because we can actually spend that geometry in a way that we like. You know, I would definitely say like this piece of glass is like a big focal point, so I would definitely make sure to have this part like nice and smooth. You know, spend more time on it than I'm spending on it. I'm just doing it in like a wacky, weird way, I would probably just start over with this piece personally, and just like make it nice and smooth. Don't want this like point at the end. What's the way to do this? Like this. You know, just to give that a nicer shape, and that'll help a lot with all sorts of things. I would actually. I also don't have my. I don't have the object like set up like oriented right. Like right now, the like local rotation is like the same as the global rotation. Whereas, so I'm moving things weirdly, basically is what I'm saying. But yeah, now that you've got extra geometry, you can add it to the areas that we need it more. So like another area we need it more is like these things. Like this should have like more geometry, kind of like this. But obviously, you know, smoothed out and nice, not weird and gross. But yeah, I would like add some loops in here and, you know, make them nice. Do not model like how I'm modeling. I'm literally doing it very, very wrong right now just because I can't be asked to set up like the transforms properly. And I, you know, I don't have loop tools installed, and like whatever the hell this is just like a mess. I hate this right now. I hate looking at this. It grosses me out. You know, this is a symmetrical object. The geometry should be symmetrical. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. You know, I would like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, the point is, what you should be looking at is in 3D, as you rotate, you want to avoid seeing these points. And then not only that, but we can check if we add a new texture and we put it on the UV grid. Okay, there you go. So now we can see what that looks like. I'm going to get rid of the like weird roughness stuff. Like I just want to see like how it's the textures mapping. So we've got like seams in here weirdly. Like if I look at this from certain angles, I can see some like kind of, I can just see angles like in weird ways. But yeah, you want to look at the silhouette basically. Like this here, like this is calling out for like, so like this edge here, like it doesn't actually, like I could remove it and it doesn't really change the silhouette that much. So like this would want to be like pulled up a bit, you know. Like obviously you want to do this uniformly over the whole thing, but like just if you focus on the silhouette, like we want to like that's a bit better, right? Like the silhouette here is a bit softer now than before when it was like that. So you want to kind of like do this uniformly. Like this piece here is like poking out, so like this edge has an issue. There's just, you know, with more geometry you can make it smoother. That's what I'm trying to say. So use your geometry in a way that is like actually efficient. And we're going to go back to object. No. There you go. So I think we can move on from the low poly. So we're going to look at the UVs now. So hold on to your hats because it's pretty extreme. So they've given them quite a strict budget, and this is packed lovely. I love that you're using some good packing. I don't you could be using UV Packmaster, or you could be using even just like a free packer now, because they've gotten pretty good lately. But the thing is, like, you want to, so like an island like this where it's almost rectangular, you want to make it rectangular, and there's a few ways you could do that. But generally you want to use some tools. It's just easier. So you select the island, and then I think with UV squares, which is the one that I like to use, you can do 2 grid by shape. Of course, the add-on's probably not up to date. You can also use Zen UV and press quadrify. There you go. That works. Quadrify works nicely. And then what you want to do is press P, which will pin those verts. See how they've just turned red? It's easier to see if I zoom out, actually. So if I press Alt-P, they're not pinned. P, they're pinned. So see how it was almost rectangular? We can do the same with this one. Quadrify island. And, you know, this is another one where it's kind of this weird kind of wonky shape. quadrify island. So the reason I'm doing this is because when you, so see these little squares, like think of these like your pixels. So when you bake your pixels, like you bake your textures or whatever, like you're going to have some pixels that are going to be running diagonally on the edges, which you don't really want, because like when you've got diagonal pixels, I can probably illustrate this in Photoshop actually. So this is especially an issue when you're working with like lower resolution. So if I get a line, oh, that's not a line. If I get a line, so see when it's at an angle, it looks kind of jagged and gross. But if I do it at a straight line, it looks clean and sharp. So this is what's going to happen with your textures. When you bake your textures, the ones on the end, you're going to get some seams. Like it's not going to be clean. It's going to be a little like kind of mushy. Like when you try to like transition from like one island to another island, you know, it's going to be a bit messy. So keep your islands straight, because yeah, even if you go a little bit off angle, you know, it gets worse. But the thing is, it's worse based on the angle. So like 45 degrees is going to be probably the worst one, and then, you know, the other angles are better. So anyway, that's just a quick tangent. It's also better for packing, and it's just easier to work with. Like this is like another island. You know, we can quadrify this island, and that just looks a lot better. Then you've got these two large islands here, which are the same size, despite one of them faces into the wall. So we should select all these faces. So all these faces, one of the second largest island, actually one of the largest islands on the, you know, the entire texture sheet is actually going to be pressed against the wall. You know, we don't see that in our render. Like it's irrelevant. So, you know, it just shouldn't, you know, really this shouldn't exist. And then also you've got all these ones inside. And the thing is, if they are going to exist, I mean, the inside ones should not exist for sure. But let's say you do want to keep the back ones because whatever reason, like maybe there's a way, like if the player gets really close to the wall, they might be able to like see through the gap or something. So what you want to do is you want to take those islands and you want to like move them out for now. And then before it comes to packing, like once you read everything and like you've made sure like all these like little bits that like are, you know, we don't care about. Let's say like, you know, let's say we've now grabbed all the pieces we want. Now what we can do is select all of this and we can scale it. We press S to scale, and then we can actually type. So we can press the dot on our keyboard, like the point, and then we can do 0, 2, 5. So now it's going to be scaled down to 25% of what it was. I think I maybe went too far. Wait, is it scale 0.25? There you go. So now that's 25% of what it would have been. So now when we pack it, you know, there's going to be faces, they'll have textures, but they don't deserve to have the same amount of pixels as something really important, right? You know, there's going to be other examples for things like this, like, you know, this internal island here, you know, this one that's inside that we can barely see. That one doesn't deserve to have the same amount of pixels. It also, you know, this seam shouldn't be here. Like, there's no point having a seam going around here. We also shouldn't have a seam going along here because you're just going to end up with a really thin island on a face that barely matters. Like technically when you're baking hard surface stuff, you want to put seams at 90-degree angles, but for something like this, like a prop where it's so small, I would rather not have like the really like tiny little messy island. I would, you know, let's just clear the seams. We're going to remove the sharps. I would literally select this front face. Come on. Why is that? There you go. Select these front faces, and then I would select the boundary loop, and then I would mark this as the seam. And then what I would do is I would add a couple extra seams just in the corners to reduce some of the stretching that that this back face is going to have. So if we mark as seam now, and if we unwrap, and then if we look at this in this mode, we're just got to go to image texture and then select our texture. And I'm going to remove the metallic and increase some of the roughness. So now we can see that that looks pretty good. There's some issues with the shading, of course. So what you want to do is select everything. You want to make sure that your you want to make sure that your custom split is like good. We're going to shade that smooth, and then we want to essentially just click one of them. You can press Shift G, then you can go to seam, then you can press Control E, and then you want to do mark sharp. So then what that's done is it's now just put a sharp edge on those, and it's fine. That's kind of how I would do it if you were going to keep them. But yeah. Moving on. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to find the next issue. And the way I'm going to find it is I'm just going to quickly pack everything so there's no overlapping islands, and then we're going to zoom in, and we're just going to see. So let's see, like okay, what the hell is this? Let's zoom in. Let's have a look at this. Okay, let's isolate this object. Okay, this is that weird one where you've got, these faces are so similar. Like these, we don't need seams around here. We also don't need a seam here. Like what is this seam doing? It's not doing anything. So we clear those. Oh, clear seam. That to me is much better. And then I would I think that's probably good. Let's remove those as a seam as well. And I'd say that's much better. So now we've got one island on the front, one island on the back. But again, because this is going to be up against stuff, get rid of that, get rid of that. And then we want to select those, get rid of those, and then probably triangulate that. And then what we can do is mark them as sharp. This will help with the baking, and I would say silhouette wise that looks a lot better. And now that we've saved those pieces of geometry, we could, if we wanted, put those somewhere else. We could bevel some edges or something. I'm not going to because it's unnecessary, but let's see what other issues we can find. So we're going to select everything, and now we're going to sort of look around. So, this looks weird. Why does that look weird? Let's see. Okay, it looks weird because it's like this kind of thing. I don't think we actually need these seams. Clear seam. So now unwrap that. That's fine as an island. I think that's probably better. Again, don't need any of this internal stuff, delete those faces, collapse it down, get rid of it. And we don't need this seam, we don't need this seam. I mean, technically, we don't need these faces really, because it's going to be, I'm pressing the wrong buttons, whereas, there you go. It's going to be right up against stuff. We're not going to see it, so we don't need those at the bottom. Let's find our next UV issue. Dun dun dun. Oh, did I just see? I'm gonna make this bigger. So these are the bolts again. I think those look like the bolt things that we just fixed. There's lots of these little guys. What are these from? Oh, okay. So that's from this. Again, it's so thin. I think that you kind of have to abstract some of these things. I think it's a bit overkill to have these really thin pieces. And I wonder whether, they couldn't have just been, why is that scaling weird? Oh, you know what I mean? Kind of I wonder if these pieces couldn't have just been like pushed right up against each other, kind of like that, you know? And then you could actually like kind of remove this edge and just bake it as like one piece kind of thing. Let's see what else we've got. We got these kind of long islands. Oh, that's part of this thing again. I mean, honestly, like, do we need that seam? I don't think so, probably. I mean, you just don't want these like thin little weird islands that like the texture resolution is going to be so small that they're barely going to get any pixels. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that these UVs could be improved. But it's mostly an issue of just like lots of little small things that are kind of bringing it down. I don't know why it won't let me zoom in on that. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so that's, yeah, this is another issue with the nut, so I'm not going to go over that again. And then I think that this is probably the... Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fine. I would rectangularize it though, like make it rectangular. You got this thing here. Why? One sec. Trying to figure out why it won't let me. There we go. Now it lets me zoom in. Oh, this is weird. Like, you know, because these angles are so similar, like, I don't think that this is the way that it really needs to be unwrapped. Like, why does this bit, this edge have a seam, but this one doesn't? You know, like, just simplify it, I would say. Clear the seam, set a seam around the outside, like that would do fine, I think. And yeah, I think that's probably good for now. But yeah, I would just optimize it. You obviously know how to pack. But yeah, it's all about just not wasting space, I guess. Like not wasting, like, you know, another one here, like, you've got two seams here. Generally, what would happen in this situation is that you would actually, you would just have a seam in the middle here. You just have one in the corner. You know, you want to minimize seams, and actually, you don't really need a seam. You can, I mean, the thing is, seams are a tool to break up the island. So what I would probably do is have a seam here, and then I would remove like these ones, and then I can, let's see, yeah, and then I get an island like this where I've got my big face that wraps all the way around, and then I've got the one on the back, which, as I said, shouldn't be the same size. It should be like, it all depends whether the viewer sees it, but you can probably go down to like 20%, so scale down to 0.2. This top face, nobody can see, it shouldn't exist, that's a separate issue. But yeah, this is our main island. This is the main thing we're going to be texturing, because that's the only bit that people are going to actually see. Okay, so I'm going to want to move on. I don't want to stay on this forever, but yeah, there's lots of areas that could be improved for the UVs. Oh, before we move on, this island right here, it should not be like this. So what you want to do, it's just think about which edge is going to be mostly hidden. I would say this one is probably the one that people won't see because they'll be below. You know, if I choose the one up here, people will see it. So I'm going to grab this one, mark seam, and then I'm going to select this island, and I'm going to unwrap it again. So now it's unwrapped nice and flat. And the reason we do that is if we check the UVs, like look at this, like this. This is not evenly spaced, like nice, uniform kind of UV mapping. Whereas we unwrap it like this, and even if we scale it down, you know, it looks a lot better. So that's why we do that. You always want to look at your, this is also nice to see, like lower resolution at the back, higher resolution at the front. Not like this, where it's high at the back, high at the front, and then you've got seams just kind of all over the shop. This, you know, shouldn't have a seam there. It's kind of, I mean, it's not the end of the world because it's kind of on the back. you know, but I can't help but wonder if there was a better way to do this, like maybe just kind of straight through the middle kind of thing, and then we can unwrap, you know, like maybe it's better like that. I don't know. So there's ways. So we're going to move on from the UVs, but I think there's a lot for you to work with there. So next we're going to look at the texturing. Now texturing, I think, is actually the area where you've probably got the most to do, but it's also the final stage. So it's also the stage that, like, kind of, you need to have everything else lined up before you get to the texturing to make it really, really nice. So we're going to start by turning everything off so that we can just see your bakes. So this is how things are baking. I think it came out pretty good. You've got some waviness. I don't think it's the end of the world. Waviness tends to be all about the angle. So when we look at it from below, the waviness kind of goes away here. But if we look at it from above, it comes back. So all depends on viewing angles. But generally, you'll get less waviness if you've got better unwraps, better low poly, sorry. That's what I meant to say. This came out really nicely. I think by and large it came out pretty good. There's some issues with your, like, how low resolution this part is, especially because it's like the focal point, you know, the glass, it's the largest face that you see. You know, it should have a bit more geometry, especially because it's curved, and it should be nice and smooth. This is a crime against all 3D. Like, what are we in 2002? You know, like, come on, like, now that we've optimized and we've saved so much geometry, like, we should come in here and we should, you know, like, add in a loop, kind of, let's see. Oh. Again, it's not angled, so I'm doing this, like, in a weird, gross way, so try not to judge me too much. But, like, you know, even like this is already better, you know, like, look at this curve. I would actually probably add a bit more, but you're also going to have to add, like, geometry in, like, you know, in here. If I do face stepping, and then just quickly, you know, we're also going to need geometry in here like that. So it's just going to help things, like, so much with the shading. Like, look at this face. Like, this is what you have, and this is what, like, I just did quickly. And this isn't even, like, perfect. Like, this could be improved. So yeah, you want to smooth those forms out, and that will help with texturing. So back to the textures. I think generally things came out pretty good. There's some weirdness here with, like, the AO or something. Like, this didn't bake out correctly. Let's see. There was one thing I noticed in one of your renders. If I check here, so this image here, I don't know what's up. The lighting might be weird, but it looks like your normal map is flipped. Like, it doesn't look right. It looks inverted. Maybe it's fine, but in here it just looks a bit weird. So I don't know. In here it looks good. So we're going to go through and look. So you started off with wood. So this is wood. So I mean, so you've got your wood base, you've got some fibers, and then you've got some roughness. So you got 3 layers essentially. I think it's not really enough to fully convey the material. It doesn't, I don't know, like, it's maybe fine for, like, I don't know, it's not even fine. There should be a lot more layers here. It should be a lot more built up. I want to see more complex uses of masks. You've essentially used only one mask. You've got fibers as well. This is kind of like a bit weird because you've got color and height, and they're both using the same material. What this should really look like is you should have a fill layer here with color and height, and then you should put a black mask on it with a fill, and then in here you put your fibers. So whichever fibers you were using, I mean, I probably don't have the texture you have. Ratio wood fibers. Yeah, I don't have that texture, but the point is, you would have, your thing in here, and then, you know, you have it in here. Yeah, so this is another thing. See, because you've got the seams there in your UVs, we're getting issues here. So that's why I suggested like just trying not to use seams if you have to, like, unless you actually have to use them. So yeah, this is like generally the way you'd want to do it, because that way you can control the height more easily. We can adjust the color, you know, kind of independently, and it's just a lot easier to work with if you're masking things off rather than putting your masks actually inside the inside this layer. Like your base color is using a mask, which isn't right. That's not supposed to happen. So moving on, we've got text here. Cool, I like it. You've got a stencil here, and then you've got text height here. So this is, you've duplicated it, and you've blurred it, which is cool. And then you're using a little bit of height. So this is a good use, because obviously if you put it on here, it's not going to look as good, because you want to have like that softness. I do that a lot, where I have one mask and then I adjust it to use it for something else. One thing you should do, just good practice. Oh, actually, you're already doing it. I take it back. You're using an anchor point. So for anyone watching that doesn't know what I'm talking about, this here is an anchor point. So if I right click and I go add anchor point, you can call this, you know, whatever you want. You can call this whatever you want. And then if you put a fill somewhere else, you have your resources here, but you also have a tab for anchor points. If I click on the one that I just made, that's basically going to grab the other one. So that means like if I paint in here, it updates both, both. So it's pulling from the original, which is really great. I like to see that. Good job. So one issue is that you're texturing it like you're painting with like oil paints or like watercolor or like something, right? Like the text is going to be brown, but it's like, what is the text? Like is it paint? Is it, is it a like enamel? Is it a like metal like print or something? Is it wood? Is it like I don't know what's going on. So you don't have a different roughness for it either. You're only doing color and height. So we're getting the wood coming through. So, presumably it's wood. I don't really know. So the thing is, you kind of have to you have to actually use all the materials. So, for example, if we give this like a little bit of height, and then we reduce the blur down. If you hold down shift, you can actually do it a lot more subtly. And then we'll go to like a positive amount. And now we can say like, oh, this is a metal. And, we don't want any of this info on it anymore. So we're going to go give it a normal. We're just going to leave it blank. And then we're going to go to the normal here. And we're going to put this on replace. And I need to do the same with the height, and I need to put that on a replace as well. Maybe I should have done this one on replace. There you go. So now we are not getting that wood underneath, which is good. So there's some issues still, obviously, but like at least now we're like, oh, okay, it's a metal. I can see kind of what they're going for. There's some issues because the wood, I think, is using quite a lot of height, so that's kind of muddying things. See how like if I remove it, so there's something weird going on with the height there. Like if I just turn that off for a second, we can kind of look at this. Like now that looks, it makes more sense like for the height. And then actually this would be the level 1. This is like the most basic use of a mask. I would then go and put a filter on here, and I would do a slope blur, which like I typed slope into slope blur like a million times a day. It's my go-to thing. So you want to divide it a few times, and then you want to increase the tiling. Probably divide it more, and then you want to like bring that down. So now we're giving it like a little bit of variation. So you don't need a lot, but it breaks it up a little bit. And we can have the tiling being quite different. Like there's all sorts you can do. You can also do like contrast and like adjust this so we have like less less damage, but it's like in fewer places, if you know what I mean. You can also change this from blur. So blur is going to push and pull, and then you've got min, which is only going to pull it inwards, and then you've got max, which will only push it outwards. So for example, we only want it on min because we just want it to dent it. We want the height to be pushed in. We want it dented to be, when something gets dented, it becomes smaller. It doesn't become bigger. So, we can do that. So pull down the contrast, and then, this is like, now you've just added another layer. So you just added a little bit more. But the main principle is that what you were doing is that you were, you were just painting brown, and you were getting the height info coming from like underneath. There you go. You were getting this kind of thing where you're painting brown on wood. It's still got wood grain, and it's just like the paint should have its own material properties, even if it's like on top of wood. Maybe it's not metal, but you can, like maybe it's not metal, but like it has its own glossness value. Like it has like a little bit of different gloss. Like maybe it's like more matte because it's like a matte paint or something. I don't know. But think about these things basically. Next up, sorry, that sounded rude. Copper. I think copper is one of those simple materials. I think it looks good. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, maybe too saturated. That could be due to the environment. And then also, I believe you've kept it pretty simple. You just got your base copper. You've got some general roughness. You've got some like a gunky nozzle or something. Or dark gunk nozzle. I don't know. Basically, it's doing something. It's adding a little bit, barely anything. And then you've got this one, which is doing something somewhere here. Again, barely doing anything. It's a bit strange. I'm not really seeing a lot of this stuff. Maybe that's affecting this. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so, it's because it's, I don't know, weird. So, yeah, I think this one is pretty good. There's lots I could say about how this could be improved. I think a lot of it comes down to just the resolution you're working at, and that your masking is pretty simple. Like this is really like low resolution masking. I'm not even sure turning this up would help. Yeah, I just went up to, oh wait, it's still loading. There you go. Okay, going up to 4K does help. So yeah, essentially you don't have enough texture resolution to accurately display it. I might keep it on 4K for now because if you improve your UVs, you should get, basically if you keep to 2K, you should be able to have like a resolution similar to this. I think you could probably eke out like twice the amount of texture space, at least if you optimize your UVs and geometry. So you've got some gold copper, which is just being used for the nuts. And you've hand painted this, which is fine. It's whatever, doesn't really matter. And then you've got, you've got your base material, and then you've got one grunge map, and that's all you've got. So, it's very, very, very simple. It's very stylized. There's not a huge amount going on. You've not gotten into like the specifics of like, kind of like, should there be dirt kind of coming up here, like, or should there be like scratches somewhere? I mean, there should be scratches on the paint from where the nuts are, like where they rotate. They probably should have like a circular kind of scratch. But yeah, let's open up the iron. So this is iron. I actually don't believe this. I've seen iron in real life. It doesn't look like this. So I don't vibe with it, honestly. You've got just a uniform color. You've got a height, which doesn't do anything, which is fine. Roughness, metallic. Okay. And then you've got, again, your grunge. So the main issue with all your textures is that you have just flat colors with grunge maps. So there's lots of solutions for this. Generally what you want to do is use like a good like base smart material. You want to use like some texture scans or something. You can get sort of, let me find something. You can get textures a little bit like, you can get textures like this or like this. I mean, this is a dirt, obviously, so it's not relevant, but like you can get like an albedo texture of material. So what you want to do is you want to look on websites like textures.com or game textures or megascans or whatever, and you want to try and find some tiling images of like, yeah, of materials that have like some information in them, because it will help, honestly. Albedo, let's see, rubber. What the, why does it keep going up with anime? Texture. Yeah, they exist, but basically, yeah, like this is kind of what your situation is. You have a flat color, but with a kind of nice albedo, you get more info, basically. So anyway, I'm not going to stay on that, but basically you've got a uniform thing here with like no height map. You can use base colors and try to build these things up by scratch if you want. But like, honestly, I'm pretty sure on like the default Substance Painter, you can search iron and you can get like, wait, let me check your reference. So you got, I mean, it's like a, yeah, okay, it's like a black painted iron kind of thing. Let's see what we got that's kind of similar to that. I mean, we can also just search metal and that'll come up with a lot more. So we can grab, let's see. Grab this for now. So like this already feels way better. I mean, and I've literally just dragged and dropped a smart material, which is really not what you should do. But if we just look before, after, before, after. So we can look at, okay, this has nice curvature info, like edge info. This one has a little bit, wait, no, there you go. So this is what yours look like. This is what a smart material out the box, unedited, looks like. So you at the very least have to do a better job than the smart material, because they're not going to hire you to make something worse than what like they could drag and drop themselves, right? So, you know, this has issues, like it's got like a line weirdly going in there, but like what's nice about it is that it does have like information, like it's got character to it, right? So you got to make sure to put that in there. Really reference things. There should just be a lot more layers, and I want you to like spend time to prioritize and learn how to make some of these materials. Right, I'm going to move on. I know this is getting long. I'm sorry for, you know, spending so much time. I'm not being particularly concise. Steel, generally steel is probably fine because it's small. I mean, whatever. It's, yeah, I mean, it's steel. It's fine. It's so small, like these little pieces, that I'm not bothered. Wire is like just a copper wire. I mean, you can add more character to it, but copper tends not to have a huge amount of character. I think this is fine. I do think there's some weirdness, like it's looks a bit matte. Like, I don't know if it's, I'm not sure if it's a cable or if it's a copper, like, I guess it's rubber or plastic, but I'm not totally sure. You got wire tube. Oh, it's kind of like a see-through thing. And then you've got glass. I thought it was plastic. Glass is a tricky one. I mean, let's see. I mean, this is like, again, it's kind of a flat color with some height map info on it. There's no color variation. You want to like go on textures.com, Megascans, or Game Textures, and you want to get some photo textures that are tileable. And you want to, if they're not tileable, you can make them tileable in Photoshop. It's very easy. And then you want to apply that to help break up the surface. And you want to make sure that it's like an accurate material. But basically, you want to be looking at your reference sheet that you have. You do have a nice reference sheet. And you want to like really look at these materials. So like this has like banding. It's like there's very little height to this. Okay, it's got we can see some height info here. We can see that it kind of blends from like green to like this kind of like brown, or this like dark green, like browny blacky kind of thing. And then you've got like red splotches all over the place as well. So like there's a lot of like info. We can see like there's some gloss variation. There's like kind of like a lot of like kind of streaking on it. There's like all sorts of information here. There's like so much to pull out. Like this is really like really nice. I like this. And then if I make sure we've got everything turned on, this, it's not to the quality of the reference, unfortunately. So there's lots of things we can do about that, but I can't go into it too much because it will take a long time. But essentially, I think what it comes down to is like you should look at your base color map, and then you should look at your like reference, and like they should kind of look very similar. So there's lots of things missing. Like you've got some of the red patches. I think you could do a better job with the masking of them. Let's have a look. Oh wow, I just saw that it's over an hour long, this video, so apologies for that. But yeah, it's very tricky to criticize or to analyze textures because I think that would be its own 2-hour video. But yes, essentially, like, let's see what you've got here very quickly. I have got another video on the channel that I really recommend looking at that will help, I think, with some texturing principles. So make sure to watch that. But yeah, like the big problem is you're using like uniform textures all over the place, and like you really got to layer these things. But yeah, I definitely recommend reading some articles about texturing, looking at some of the pros, and trying to get your hand on some, like, just, there's tutorials out there that will show you, they'll literally show you how they texture. But honestly, texturing is like a big journey. It's not going to happen overnight. But yeah, I think so you know how to use the tool. You're even using anchor points, which honestly, like, I didn't use anchor points for like the first 5 years of texturing, so you're already ahead of where I was at. But like in terms of your like material understanding and definition, I don't, like it very much reads like a game asset to me, or like a CG asset. This height, I just can't abide. It bothers me. Like just immediately, like that already looks like better to me. Like having no height, I don't know. It's good to have height if you do it right. But again, like there you go, steel tank painted. This is a default smart material. If I throw that in, like how's this gonna look? Like it's probably gonna look pretty okay. Oh, maybe not. But you know what I like? I kind of like the rust. So you know what we could do is like turn the base off, and then now it's added some interesting flair to it. Like we should probably like mask it off to like certain areas, of course, because right now it's affecting everything. You just do a black mask with a color select. Have you got color maps? No, you don't. That's fine. Paint, and then yeah, just like a quick thing. But yeah, like I mean, it was kind of nice that it affected everything actually. But yeah, so point is that you should definitely spend a lot of time learning how to texture things. Watch plenty of videos, learn how to like kind of find some stuff on ArtStation and reference their work and try to achieve like their sort of level. Try to figure out how they do it. There's Discord communities out there like the Weapon Room and Polycount and a bunch of other places. I'm not honestly up to date with all of them right now. But yeah, I hope this helps. I'm sorry I couldn't go into more detail with the texturing, but again, I really do think that it's a massive, massive thing that I could spend hours talking about. And I do actually have a video that is a couple hours long where I talk about texturing principles, and that was just with a small piece of a gun, but I think a lot of that would actually apply. So yeah, I wish you the best of luck, and yeah, thanks for sending me the file. If anyone else would like to send a file to kind of get some feedback or to learn, that would be, yeah, I'm open to doing that.